Now we're going to talk about motion. The principle of motion is a pretty simple concept, and it's pretty obvious when you see it. So as you can see here in this particular piece of graphic design, there is quite a bit of motion, and it is a downward circular motion. And you'll notice that when we talk about a focal point or an area of emphasis, the bottle is the area of emphasis, and it's emphasized by space, but it's also obviously emphasized by motion. So what we're seeing here in this graphic design is not a stagnant graphic design. It is not a flat, it is not just sitting there. When we see motion, it instills in us an experience of motion. As an example, we see this and we sense the fluidity, the liquid, and all that's going on with this circular motion. Notice also that this focal point is strong, this area of emphasis is strong and attractive, and it's offset by a lot of space. With regard to space, there is a tendency for new designers to try to fill up space. But hopefully, as you've seen so far, space is something that is very effective in the area of emphasis and organization. You really need to learn as a designer how to see space. Most people just overlook space. But one of the things a graphic designer does is see space and utilize it effectively. In addition to space, I've mentioned this before, notice the shape. This is a triangle shape. You're going to see that a lot in graphic design. But back to the motion. Motion in this design piece is not just attractive and energetic, but it is also driving the hierarchy. Obviously, we see this fluid bottle first, but then we're drawn down to the headline. If you remember, I mentioned that it is important to make sure your headline interacts with the main attractive element. It's doing a great job of that right here. You'll notice that the headline says fresh squeezed juice. It is the second thing that we see because of the motion guiding our eye pathway, and it has high contrast. The other thing I want you to notice is the type style. The type style, when you pick typography for headlines and subheadings, that typography needs to match the feel and the tone of your design. If the type was thick, square, blocky, and black, it wouldn't work here. It wouldn't be fluid, and it wouldn't have any motion. So the type choice here makes sense because the whole piece is designed around motion. Also notice that the third thing we see is right along the lines of that fluid motion, and it is standing out because of color. That is the logo. And then we have the rest of the group of information sitting right there. So it's motion that drives everything in this piece. It's what makes it such a strong piece. Here you see a piece of fine art, and you'll notice quite a bit of motion. You see motion, it's probably going this way, tends to go downhill, but if you see it going the other way, I don't think that's a problem. Also notice here the contrast in color. You have the warm colors here and the cool colors here. And also notice the contrast in sort of the shapes or the texture. These right here are angular, strong shapes. They are called geometric shapes. Squares, anything man-made, any shape man-made with hard edges, those are going to be called geometric shapes. When you take a look at the shape like this, that is an organic shape, sort of a real world shape. Things like trees and leaves and mountains and rocks and ocean waves, all of these are organic shapes. Squares, triangles, buildings, those kinds of things are all geometric shapes. Obviously, this photo is got a ton of motion in it. The motion is going from this direction to this direction. A lot of horizontal blurring is going on. It's quite a interesting piece, and notice, remember we talked before about the rule of thirds, so you can see that's sort of going on in that way. And also remember we've talked about triangles, so you can see that as well, and maybe there's a triangle going on right there. So there's a lot of interesting things happening in this piece. But overall, it is the motion that's really, really attractive. And notice how the face is just a little bit more sharp than anything else, which gives us a strong focal point and an attractive area. This is the first thing that we're going to see in this piece.